What's good, y'all? J Boogie in full effect mode. Bun down is the sound. You know how we do. This is, of course, The Lounge Presents. We're live streaming on Twitch right now, and this episode will be available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, of course, for the on demand. Today in the lounge space, we are humbled and honored to have a guest that we wanted to get on all over the weekend, but due to unforeseen circumstances, we weren't able to make it happen until today. But that's really all that matters. The person that we're about to welcome into the lounge space is definitely a builder. We've been talking a lot about builders lately on the pod, and we're talking about builders of the culture, builders of the community, and even more importantly, builders of an infrastructure that exists right now in Canada. So without any further ado, we're giving it up one time for Lynx.
Yeah. Whoa.
Hell yes.
Well, yeah. Thanks. Nice to
Oh,
meet you.
definitely, definitely. This is the first time we've met, but we've got a lot of good reason to reach out to you and want to get you on. Believe it or not, we we reached out to you like early, if I'm not mistaken, and we're just kind of like, okay, we'll put a pin on it and we'll keep checking back as it gets closer to the battle. But the familiarity with you is not just out of the ether. Obviously, part of the legendary crew, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've had Be Nice on,
Mm-hmm.
and I told Be Nice, eventually we got to get every person from the crew in the lounge space. So I guess we'll be able to do it one by one.
Yeah. I know getting us all in one place is a big challenge, even for us.
Oh, for real? Nah, let's be real, right? We're all grown folks here.
Yeah, exactly.
Families, lives, work situations, you name it. So we take the moments and we can get them.
Yeah, for sure. It's essential. And I mean, sometimes it's like this, right? Through the screen. Whatever however you
Exactly.
can do it, it's you make it happen.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, we always start off by asking our guests how they were first introduced to hip hop culture.
Yeah, I was living I'm from Western Canada in Alberta, and I moved here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
actually from Alberta, but I've been living here for over 30 years, so I'm a Quebecer now. Um,
Right.
yeah, and I went to university here in Montreal, and at the time, I would go home in the summers and visit my family and stuff. And I met this guy who was into at the time I was really love sports. I was into dancing. I was into doing martial arts. And I met this guy he was listening to a lot of hip hop. He was skateboarding and he was writing graph. And so
Okay.
naturally he put me onto that stuff. And then I came back home from the summer and I was stoked. It was my first time living in a big city. And so I would get on the skateboard and ride around in the alleys, check out all the graffiti. And I
Right.
stumbled upon a festival, which is called Under Pressure Festival, which is still running.
Hey,
That was
yes.
back in the maybe I started breaking in 98. So this was maybe we're talking like when I put on to hip hop culture, it would have been like 97. But when I was growing up, of course, as a youth in a rural area, there were still kids in my school who were like wearing the white glove and doing the worm and stuff like that. It's not like not like I had never seen anything. I watched Flashdance and like all kinds of other movies. But when I lived in the city was like the first time I got to go around and just experience, and I loved it. I used to go everywhere, and I just love those abandoned buildings and alleyways. I was just kind of a weirdo. I love that kind of stuff, and so I stumbled upon Under Pressure, and that's where I first saw people breaking. And back in the late '90s in Montreal, it was all about the loft parties and the raves and the after-hour clubs. And so as I was going to university, I was having a whole other life outside of school, which was my hip hop education and my dance education, I guess. And so that's how I got put on. And like I saw breakers at the after hour clubs, I saw them in loft parties. And the minute I saw someone in front of me breaking, it was like right away, like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Cause I always was into sports. I was a tomboy. I loved doing everything that the guys were doing. And so for me, breaking was just like, oh yeah, I want that. And that's it. That's from there. It was like my homegirls and I who used to go out clubbing together. And we love to go out clubbing, not for we were not into drugs or techno. We just love like dancing and hanging out and being with people, and so that was how I met them, and we all wanted to learn to break. And so from then on, we went on a search to find people to teach us, because it was hard back then to
Right,
find
right.
it.
No, no, most def. That's so real. You bring up a couple of things that I definitely want to touch on. First of all, under pressure. If
Hmm.
you're gonna be exposed to the culture, what better way than fucking under pressure?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what a great way to be introduced to the culture. And then you bring up another thing, which was such a reality back then. Breakers were being invited to raves to perform, just to sesh, to cipher. Like,
Hmm.
you were getting invited to these parties specifically because you were breaking. Like,
Oh,
that
we
was
weren't getting
definitely a true
invited yet
phenomenon.
because we were noobs, but we went there because we wanted to, like, a lot of people were into jungle back then. And so a lot of the raves
Yes.
and clubs back like here would have like a techno room, which we
Yep.
stayed away from. And then we were really into, nothing against techno, but that just wasn't our jam,
Yeah.
We were
Yeah. For
into
real.
the jungle room because that's where people would go to break. So
Yep. Because
yeah.
you could break the jungle.
Yeah, and all the hip hop
Yep.
heads would go to the jungle room.
Yep.
So it's kind of
Yep.
like the jungle area was more like where all the hip hop people and like would congregate, as opposed to like in the techno room. So I think,
That's so real. Jungle and hip hop did this. There was a lot of this going
yeah,
on between jungle and hip hop, especially back then.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, some of
So,
the first editions of the event that we're organizing that's happening on Friday, Saturday here in Montreal,
yes.
the creation
Yes.
event, some of our first editions, and actually the way the event was born came out of under pressure.
Yes.
So we had our event at Under Pressure for several years in collaboration with them. And then like the first panel discussion that kind of spawned the like idea of it, the nugget of it where it was born, was at Under Pressure. So
How is that for synergy though? You know what I'm saying? That's true synergy right there. Being exposed to the culture through Under Pressure, and then eventually, well, you know what? We're gonna throw battle, and we're gonna collab with Under Pressure. I mean, can it get any better?
right, full circle, many times over, right? Like I
For
even
real.
organized break battles at Under Pressure in 2007, 2006. So yeah, there's been a lot of connection there with that. I
There
mean,
you
now
go.
we're not connected with Under Pressure. We're kind of like our own entity now with
All
Queen's,
right.
which is
Yep.
great. It has its own life now.
As
So
it should be.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's sick. I love that. Before before hip hop, before breaking, were you into any sort of dance?
It's kind of like I was a very high level competitive athlete for a lot of my life, and then
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
There it is. Okay.
yeah.
What were
And
you doing? What were you doing?
it's a funny thing. Most people are not going to have a clue what I'm talking about. I was a cross country skier. I
Okay. Yes.
did track and
Hell
field.
yeah.
I used to track and field, and then I started doing cross country running and cross country skiing in the winter is like cross training. And then I suddenly like
Hell
did
yeah.
races, got really good at it, and so I went to World Cups. I was on the Alberta team. I kind of did a lot
Oh,
of
that's sick.
nationals. Like, yeah, I had a whole like as a teen, I was really heavily into sports, and I feel like it was
Salute.
great for me. Yeah,
Love it. That's
yeah.
so dope. So obviously there's obviously a foundation there, having been involved in sport.
Hmm.
So that makes a lot of sense. What about in terms of the music? What was your first exposure to the music part of the culture?
I would say the kind of roots of my music connection and also maybe kind of cultural connection come from my first and foremost from my parents. My
Okay.
parents were American. They were big time hippies. They immigrated to Canada, and they
Okay.
collected vinyl. Like my dad has a huge collection of vinyl of like folk music, really into a lot of folk music, but also blues. My dad
Okay.
had a crazy collection of like blues, American blues records, like from the 50s, 60s, 70s. And so, and would play music constantly. My parents loved music and dancing. And so I think that like my dad used to put the speakers and like blast music out into the yard while he was gardening and stuff. It was just like
Eh,
that vibe of like, we love music. And yeah, it was just dancing. It wasn't like anything formal, but I think if I would have
mhm.
had access, I grew up in such a rural area. I didn't have
Mhm.
access to anything like gymnastics or dance classes or anything like that. I'm
Mhm.
sure I would have loved them because I was super into any sport I could get into. But yeah, it was only later on I started doing others like contemporary dance when I came here to Montreal. But yeah,
Right.
the connection with the music, and also I grew up on a First Nations reservation. I grew up on an Indigenous reservation in northern
Okay.
Alberta for the first 9 years of my life. I'm not Indigenous.
Okay.
My parents were teachers there.
Okay.
But because my dad worked a lot with the youth, he was very connected with the elders. And our family, being white people on reserve, were instead of being kind of like separate, we were very integrated because of my dad's work with the youth. My parents have done a lot of community work over the last 50 years in their lives. And so
Right.
that kind of set the example for me as well. And like my first exposure to dancing and music was like in tea dance,
Oh
drumming,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the powwow. And
Yeah.
so that was definitely I have a photo of me dancing in the tea dance when I was like 6 years,
Oh, that's sick.
yeah, so that's kind of part of the roots. And I think also culturally, growing up in that environment until I was 9 years, speaking the language and having all my friends, my godparents were Indigenous, um, it really influenced me. And kind of, as opposed to growing up in a place where it's suburban and everybody's
Yeah.
white, I grew up in a place
Yeah.
where everybody was brown and I was a minority. And so I feel like that kind of like shaped me in a way, and has affected me in a most amazing way. I got to see a lot of the traditions of the elders before they passed, so
Right.
in that era. So it was really that those are deep connection roots for me.
That's dope. No, I love that. I love that. And I mean, that exposure, I mean, there's it's seeds, right? Seeds being planted. Blues being played at home, seeds being planted. The exposure to tea dance, seeds being planted. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
The background in sport, a bit of a foundation there. You know what I'm saying? So it really doesn't surprise me that once you discovered breaking, that you were like, "Yo, this is it." Doesn't
Mhm.
surprise me at all. Do you
Yeah.
remember? Do you remember the first hip hop record you ever purchased?
Ah, I don't know if it was record. It was probably a cassette.
Okay.
Yeah, it was probably. I think it was De La Soul.
Hey!
Or Jungle Brothers.
Oh, okay. That's all, man. Native tongues for first entry. Hell yes. There you go. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
That's sick. That's awesome. So when you started to really start to immerse yourself in the culture and in breaking, eh, the family, I'm sure, started to notice. What was their initial reaction to what you were starting to embark on?
I think my parents are pretty used to me doing a lot of crazy stuff. I mean,
Okay.
I, I,
Okay.
I think breaking is probably not the worst of stuff.
Okay.
That's a really like ridiculous, crazy things. So, like on hitchhiking and traveling and all, like adults have done a lot of stupid stuff actually. And I feel sorry for my parents, to be honest. Like now that I'm older, I'm like, God, what was I thinking? My poor parents. But you know, I'm also an only child. And so like I think I'm really lucky that my parents just love me no matter what. And I think that was
Yeah.
kind of the bottom line, is that, sometimes they were wondering, like, what are you doing? This thing that doesn't really make money, but and they worried about me in that way. But I think they were happy to see me doing something that I loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very important. Very important. I think that at the end of the day, the parental units will always support what you do if they see how much passion you have for it and what it does for you personally. I mean, I think most parents, regardless of whether they can relate or not, are
Mhm.
going to support you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's sick. That's
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah.
So, what was it about the culture specifically that drew you in?
I think what I loved about breaking and the culture was that it was hard.
Okay,
That it was, I mean, to
there you
be
go.
honest, when we first came into breaking, it was a very unwelcoming situation for us as women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I often questioned, like, why am I doing this? But there was just something about it that I maybe couldn't even explain. that
Mm-hmm.
it reached. And I think in hindsight I could see it as, oh, this was my way of healing. Hip hop and
Mm.
my access to this thing that was really physical, because I'm a super physical person and I needed a
Mm-hmm.
way to physically express. And I loved sports, but one of the reasons why I stopped doing sports was that I started learning about studying at college about the arts, and I loved the arts. Like, I loved art. It was very
Right.
natural from how I grew up. And then I thought, well, I'm doing this sport, but we're kind of being treated like robots. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like how sometimes we were treated as athletes. I think I just kind of internally rebelled against it. I'm a bit of a rebel anyway, so I think that I rebelled against that, being treated as a machine and not having a kind of creative input into how I was training, and then that kind of killed my love in the end of the sport and why I quit. And then I was a bit lost for a while. And so when I saw breaking, it kind of sparked that thing for me that was like, this is really physical. It's super hard,
Right.
but I can express myself. And also as a kind of like in retrospect, I can see that it was a way, it was an outlet, it was a form of healing for me, and it was a way to connect um, with people and groups of people that I naturally gravitated towards.
That's sick. I love that. I love that. I love when you can connect with a form of art,
Hmm.
and that art is able to help you work out your own things. I
Hmm.
mean, that's awesome. I love that. It's so sick. So how did Legendary come about? What are the origins of Legendary?
It's interesting because the Legendary is not my first B girl crew. We started a B
Right?
girl crew out of that clique of girls who went out clubbing. We started a crew called Elemental Five.
Elemental
And
5. Yes, sir.
yeah, and that was in 99. And Elemental Five transitioned into B girl correct collective called Solid State, which was like 14 B girls. We were a lot of B girls back then.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Solid State kind of like splintered off and became, some people took it over, became like, I was part of a founding member of Elemental Five. I was a founding member of Solid State. And then I left Solid State and kind of went off on my own for a while, and they took Solid State and made it into a dance company. And I just kind of was like, in that time when I was off on my own, I I got, that was actually when I really had a chance to access some of my mentors and learn real foundations of the
Right.
dance.
Right.
And then it wasn't until had another crew, and then in 2009 started Legendary Crew. So I was the initiator, or the person who started the crew, and by bringing together all the strong women in the city. And I
Hey.
think the initiative was really just like, well, we've all been here breaking for over 10 years. We're killing it. We're
Yeah.
amazing. Nobody wants us in their crew. Let's start our own
There
crew and battle them. So
you
that
go.
was kind of like, it was like a DIY kind of like vibe where, and then just every B girl that was coming up, we would and killing it, we would bring them into the crew. And so then that's like 2009. So that's it's been a while now that and I think it's evolved. Like now I feel our crew is really more of a, as many of us are older, we have careers or families, or just working and a lot. And so I think that it's really evolving into like a family vibe. Like we
Right.
always fam, no matter if we don't see each other for a long time,
Oh yeah.
always fam and connected by
Yeah.
that history that we've had together of like battling together and like and going out there and just like killing it. It's that energy that gave us strength, and also gave us an opportunity to be visible, because like I
Right.
said, we nobody was asking us to be in any crews, but we were really killing it. And so then I was
Mm-hmm.
like, but because we're not in a crew, we don't get to battle. So the fact of us having a crew and going to battles and entering made women visible in our community and in Montreal for 10 plus years. And also, I remember times of like over a 5-year period where I would go to a battle and there'd be like 60, 70, 100 people entered, and I would be the only B girl battling in the battle.
Right.
So it's like,
Right.
this is like, people don't know, they don't know about that, but like I know,
That's
I
real.
remember. So
Hell
and
yeah.
that to me, I always say that's kind of my current motto, is like, visibility creates possibility. And so
Yeah.
if you out there being present in a place where there aren't many of you, then you're doing work, you're creating visibility, you're creating possibility for the other women out there, for everybody, not just the women, but the men also, to see that,
Yeah.
everyone to see that, yes, this is a place for women and men together, and we need more. I think that's one of the very first things that I said in the first battle I ever entered, or when I randomly was pushed into entering this battle, as I went to this jam in 98, RockCon 98. There were no women in the whole battle. And somebody pushed me up on stage and they made me do an exhibition battle against another girl. And neither of us knew what the hell we were doing. Like, I was just like doing capoeira and like not break. I was like such a noob. I was so toy. But like at the end, they said that I had won. But for me, it was like the whole thing was ridiculous. Like, you didn't have any women in the event. So you just threw us up on stage, made this kind of fake battle, and then made us battle each other, which is also kind of like crazy. And then that was it. So you filled the mandate of like, oh, we had women. And so I got on the mic and I said, yeah, I want to see more women. I want to see more B girls. Where are the B girls at?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of like, that is and has come to understood to me as kind of part of what has been my role in the scene. And it overall this time, 26 years, is just asking that same question of like, where are we at? Where's the women? And who's, where's the responsibility about shifting this?
Yeah.
Where, we need, and just saying we need to shift this. This is necessary. This is important. And in no way have I ever been like placing blame. It's never been a like, this is wrong and this is right. It's like, well, I see something is missing and speaking up about it. That for me was kind of like, it wasn't even a thought process of like, oh, I should do this, but it was just like, it came out of me, like, and it needed to be said.
I hear that. It's funny that you're on that tip, because when you think about how far, I mean, we have to acknowledge things have progressed since the 90s, and we are seeing a lot more women out there battling and taking names.
Killing it.
More, much more than back then.
Yeah.
And recently, it's come back up in the news again. It left the news cycle, thankfully, but it's popped back up again. So I never thought I'd be talking about this anymore. Okay, but it came back into the news cycle, and so I'm gonna ask. There's a breaker from Australia, obviously Raygun, who showed out at the Olympics, but it has this immense cloud of controversy that just will not leave her alone. And now the WDSF is under fire. They had to release a statement to validate, like, you know what I mean? Just, in my opinion, a whole bunch of fucking ray that we don't need to still be talking about. But lo and behold, wake up Monday morning, oh, we're back on this again. So with that in mind, I just want to touch on it. I don't want to give too much time to it, but just to touch on it. What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Yeah, well, it would have been like the elephant in the room if we didn't talk about it. I kind of saw this one coming, but yeah, to be honest, like, okay, there's two things about this. One is that I don't endorse shaming people, and I don't endorse bullying.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And I don't endorse like toxic energy, that's necessary. And for me, like, I felt like it's like this ugly thing, which I feel like we're in an era right now, in a time where this is what's happening. All the ugly things are being exposed and coming to light. And that's what this situation is. It's like the ugliness is coming to light, and it's bringing out ugliness on all sides. And so I feel like the situation with Raygun has brought up, like, it's at the meeting place between tough love and easy props, it's really like you have the extreme, like, for me, I felt like it brought out a lot of ugliness. Sorry about the
siren, it brought up Babylon.
Yeah, for real, like,
it brought up Babylon. Listen to that.
Yeah, the siren was saying that. So yeah, it brought up a lot of ugliness, and also a lot of people that thrive on that ugliness, that are that are willing, they're just waiting for something like this to happen, and that's their lifeblood. They're there like leeches sucking it up and spitting it out so they can get likes and
Yeah.
money. And like that, to me, that's sick. That's
Yeah.
a sick part of our society. Like, and
Yep.
I was so disenchanted with that part of it, that
For
people are
sure.
just so willing to go on and say nasty, horrible things to, and not even know the backstory, and not
Yeah.
even understand anything, and then consider themselves authorities on that thing. Like,
Yep.
shut up. Like, get out of here. Like, don't. But to me, it made me sick. Like, I'm like, I really exposed those people for me. And like, even some of my favorite comedians, I was like, I don't even want to follow you anymore. Like, really, there's
Right? It's like
something better to do with your life than just
unfollow, block, go away.
keep over hashing this. So in that sense, and also it was hard for me, because then I'm like, oh well, here is this. And I did ask the questions like, would this situation be the same if Raygun wasn't a woman, or, like that. I don't know. I had different opinions, people coming up like that. And I allowed myself to have different feelings about the situation and not become polarized, because
Mm-hmm.
that's also what's happening in our world now, is people become polarized. They're on this side and
Yeah.
that side. And if one's on here, they're going to hate each other. And I'm like, I don't, I don't like that. I don't like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that these kind of, when the ugliness gets exposed, that's what happens. And then we have a lot of hatred coming out. And I feel like we're not going to get anywhere. But this toxic stuff, this ugliness has to be exposed for people to understand that it's here. So there's
Yeah.
something about this ugliness and this toxic um, shaming and bullying that exists in our community and in our culture. And not just in the mainstream culture, but also in the breaking culture and in the hip hop culture. There's ugliness there too. And this situation has brought some of that to light. On the other side, we also have someone of very low skill level who's been highlighted, who's getting
Yeah.
money, and
Yeah.
who's getting attention way more than the women who are incredible. And
Yes.
it just killed it on that platform. I
Yes.
cried watching the Olympics. I'm sorry, like there's things about the Olympics I didn't agree with, but I watched the B girls and I was so emotional because it was the first time seeing them on such an insane
Mm-hmm.
platform and just killing it. Like, I had goosebumps thinking about it now, like how
Oh
amazing
yeah.
they were. And just for me, knowing the process that some of the B girls have had to go through, spending tens of
Yeah.
thousands of their own personal money to go to
Hell
all these
yeah.
crazy circus of like battles worldwide, which is like an algebra equation to figure out how you can qualify. I mean, I entered some of these battles. I entered like the regional battals. I entered
Yeah.
the national battles. And I even tried to enter one of the world battles. And I just found it anxiety producing for me, like coming
Mm-hmm.
from a different era of battling and
Mm-hmm.
understanding the community. Like, it at the end, I just kind of was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. But because I entered the battles, I couldn't also judge. And so then in hindsight, I was like, well, maybe that's a good thing. Like I was
Yeah.
part of this whole process, but
Yeah.
I was and I wasn't. But like I had a lot of mixed feelings about it all. And I feel like, yeah, on one hand, it's not the individual's fault. It's not I
No.
don't think it's Raygun's fault that
It's
she ended
not.
up in this. We
It's
could
not.
blame her responses to the situation, but at the same time, it's not her fault that she's landed up in this situation. It's the system that got her there, because the
Exactly.
system is not fair. There were like probably like 300 B girls. She's definitely not the top ranked B girl in the world, like the WDSF is saying she is. And I'm sorry, because I'm 51 years old and I could probably smoke Grey Gun. Like I'm in the top 8 in
I
Canada,
think
and
you
I'm
could. I'm sorry, but I think you could.
I'm sorry. Like, there's no way she should have been on that platform at all. Truth. I'm sorry,
And
like, but like, and I'm not
especially there's
like
there's
bullying her.
primo talent in Australia.
What's that?
There's primo talent in Australia.
Primo what?
Talent.
Oh yeah, I saw some of the other videos.
Yeah, come on now, Holly. What? Jeez.
No, it was kind of like, I'm happy they put that out too, because
Yeah,
like I feel like every day we're getting more and more um information, and it all seems a
yeah,
little sus. Like I can't. I just like I'm not really. And I feel like they're just trying to justify how that
yeah,
happened now that it's become a huge, ugly mess.
yeah. I think you summed it up really well. The two different aspects of this, but I really do not want to take away from the something that you touched on that was so real and much realer than anything that's catching headlines. And it's the feeling that a whole gang of us had watching this. I was in my feels the entire time. I was getting choked up because in my lifetime, regardless of the process that it took to get there, and yes, there was controversy, but how it all happened. But regardless of all that, in our lifetimes, we got to see breaking competed at the Olympics in our lifetime, which is so much bigger than all the headlines that are happening.
Yeah, and I had the utmost respect for
Yes,
all the people, even the
they
ones
all
who
showed
didn't
out.
make it there. Like as I know,
Yes,
that was a long, hard journey that they
yes,
went through to make it there. And regardless of their standing or their ranking or how they placed, like even Raygun, I'm sure trained a lot to get there. And
for sure.
like
Props for props are due still.
yeah, exactly. And but like I really, really have the utmost respect for all of those people, because even just like in the battles that I went, it was like it was really intense, and so it takes a
Hmm.
lot of mental strength, not just
Oh
physical
yeah.
strength and skill, to be able to do that whole process and then come out where they were.
Y-
So
you bring up a great point. Let's touch on that just for a quick sec. Just the concept of battling itself. Let's be honest. This is not something anyone is able to do. The concept of battling, going out there by yourself or with a crew, but there's still points where it's you having to show out and rep. The concept of battling itself, for some people, is really daunting. You know what I'm saying? There are people that naturally are made for battling. You
mhm,
know that.
mhm.
But, some people, it's a process where they have to work themselves up to battle readiness mentally.
Yeah, and I think that that's also one of the reason why there's been a lot of less B girls, because I
Yeah.
mean, I see it in a lot of my students
It's
who are
it's
coming up. That's the
it can
most
be daunting.
intimidating thing for them.
It can be
Another
daunting.
reason why we're creating the Queen's Creation event, so we can have
Yes.
a different energy and a different vibe atmosphere for them to feel more comfortable, for everybody to feel in a different space.
Salute for that segue. That was a dope segue. Right where we're headed to. Queen's Creation is obviously the battle that you helped found. Now it's been going for how many years now?
So the first edition was in 2014. I
There
came
we
on
go.
organizing it the year after, but it all started from a panel discussion in 2013 at Under Pressure, where a bunch of us were invited. A female MC, female graph artist, a visual artist, a filmmaker, Melissa Porietti, the other organizer, and myself as a B girl, to talk about women in hip hop culture. And after that panel discussion, Melissa had the vision of wanting to organize an event that would
Sick.
showcase women. Yeah.
Sick.
So,
Why don't you break down the format? What's going to be happening?
I mean, in the past, we've kind of like tried a bunch of different things, but
Mm-hmm.
this year, this is our actually we the last time we had an event was in 2019, so before
Mm-hmm.
pandemic. This is our
Pandemic. Yeah.
seventh edition, but it's our first time coming back to do the event after that
Hey.
extended period of time. So it's pretty exciting. And we have a really amazing venue, which is a theater space, who've offered
Sweet.
their space to us. So we don't have to worry about weather or
Nice.
time. We're really like
Yeah.
generous space. So it's very nice. And so this year we have three different battles. We have a 2-on-2, which is kind of the signature battle of
Mm-hmm.
Queen's Creation. It's just a 2-on-2 female all styles battle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this really, like in the past, what we've seen is like the women really come together as partners and as a team. And we see a lot of bonding and like a lot of positive energy in the exchanges between. So that's what's
Mm-hmm.
happening on the Friday, as well as we have an MC battle, female MC battle. We have female artists who are doing live beat making. And we have a lot of showcase performances. We have Raw Honey Crew from Saskatoon who are going to do a performance.
Okay.
And on Saturday, we have like a crump performance. On Saturday
Hey.
is the real, like we have JK47 giving a free workshop for youth for breaking. And Tash is doing like a hip hop workshop for adults. After that, we have the two other new battles. We have a new battle. We added a Bonnie and Clyde break battle.
Yes.
We have a one-on-one B-girl battle. So that's all happening on Saturday. Is kind of like the break day, like
Yeah,
the break night is Saturday. And I really wanted to do the Bonnie and Clyde this year to
that's sick.
yeah, I really wanted to invite the B-boys in to because I personally love Bonnie and Clyde battles, and I
I love Bonnie and Clyde battles. Hell yeah.
like, and a lot of couples enter the battle, so it's also very
Yeah.
cute.
It's kind of live, yo.
Yeah, it's
If
really
you're a couple and you can enter, that's live, yo.
yeah. Yeah. And because I think that, like, we, again, in making the event, we never wanted to segregate. That was never our intention, or to separate, or to be against men in any way. And so I
Right.
feel like the gesture of having the Bonnie Clyde was to invite, to come into the event and collaborate and be a part of it. And actually, we're also gonna give out a Cypher Killer uh, prize for
Dope.
the male all style dancer on Friday. So
Dope.
yeah, just to invite. And I think the vision of Queen's Creation, like how I envisioned it being, to explain to people like why, because a lot of people have asked us and have been against the event because they felt like, oh, this is like man hating, it's
Okay, slow your roll.
stuff like that. And for me, what I wanted people to understand is that as women in hip hop culture, things are shifting for sure. Now a lot has changed, but coming up, and still to this day, we're often in a minority, and we go to jams and
Oh
events
yeah.
where there are less women and
Yeah.
more men, and
Of
this
course.
shifts the energy
Yeah.
of the space. And so I wanted, the vision that I imagined was inviting everyone into a space that had more feminine energy, that had
Yeah.
more women, and just to see like how, because we feel that changes the vibe when we make a big girl cipher, or when there's more women in the room, it does shift the energy. And just to acknowledge that shift, and that this is desirable, this is something important, to honor women in our community. You want to have more women in the space, you need to
Yeah.
honor them and make them visible. It can't be
Yeah.
that we go to jams and then you don't put us in the recap. It can't be that we see photos of events and there's only men in the picture in every
Yeah.
possible position of importance.
Yeah.
DJs, hosts, battle guests, everybody is male,
Yeah.
judges, and it's not going to fix the problem by having one woman and all the rest,
No. No. No.
because that's the scenario that's been happening for a long time.
Yeah.
So we want to create a space where it's the opposite, like it's the upside down world. We shifted the usual scenario and came with a new one. And we're just inviting people to experience that and see, hey, this is great. This is not about excluding anybody.
Yeah.
It's about shifting the dynamic and seeing what
Excellent.
that creates.
There you go. There you go. Have you been able to reach out to, I mean, obviously, if you're from Quebec, you're Ontario, breakers from Quebec and Ontario will be there. But how far out have you been able to get representation from the Maritimes and out further west?
I don't know of anybody coming from the Maritimes. I mean, that would be amazing if they were going to come through. But
Yeah.
we do have people coming from Alberta.
Dope.
We have people coming from Saskatchewan, and that, as far as I know, we also have people coming from Toronto. So
Manitoba, you're sleeping. Come on now.
word.
Killasan, where you at?
Let's go.
Why isn't Killasan going?
She has
Dang.
been there, yeah.
Yeah, she's been. She's been.
Yeah, she's definitely repped hard.
That's I think I personally, obviously, I would think that's something that you would like to see happen. And what steps do you think you can take to broaden that a little more? Because it would obviously, it diversifies the talent pool still,
Hmm.
and it brings a lot more different flavors. So what steps do you think you can take to broaden representation from the Maritimes or the Western provinces?
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely reach out to the people who are organizing jams in those areas. Like, luckily, I had the connection with Big Girl Monday, who's part of Alpha Kids in Saskatoon.
There you
And
go.
she brought me out to the game theory event where I judged. And at the same time, we did a collab, and she sponsored a B Girl to come as a battle guest to Queen's
Oh,
Creation. So
sick.
these kind of
Dope.
connections that make it
Yep.
possible for that to happen. And I mean, also for sure, future steps is like funding, like the more
Yes.
funding we get, the more we can
Yes.
reach and have funds to bring people from everywhere. Like, I mean, across Canada from the States, like there's definitely some like B girls in the OG B girls in the States who I would love to reach out to and have come to
Hmm.
Canada, but we want to have a budget for that. So I think that's
For
really
sure.
the next steps would be, reaching across Canada, bringing more people in, or doing qualifiers, anything like that, little like battle for the battle guests, like, yeah.
And here in Canada, we afforded certain opportunities to be able to make something pop off. There is grant money here in Canada,
Hmm.
on the federal and provincial level, right? So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of knowing what's out there and what's available to you, so you can get some of that grant money and open things up a little bit.
Yeah. Word.
Say
Yeah.
a word, hell yeah! Now, who's going to be judging for the battles?
Um, we've got for the break battles, we've got JK47, Vigo Cleopatra, and Vigo Radio.
Hey,
Uh, from Vigo Cleopatra and Radio from Legendary, and of course JK is from Diamonds, and yeah, yeah.
who's spinning?
Oh, DJ Blessed. And
Hey,
yeah,
there you go.
yeah, Blessed
There
is
you go.
for the All Styles, and Doom Girl from Toronto is spinning for the breaking.
Hey,
Yeah.
okay. There you go. See, that's nice. I like seeing that. Um, Obviously, this is something that I hope to see continue for the next decade at the very least, and I look forward to seeing even the judges and the DJ talent that's used start to expand even further, where you've got maybe even a DJ from Vancouver or Calgary or Winnipeg. You've got judges from Halifax or
Mhm.
Fredericton or what have you. and
Mhm.
and I really don't see any reason why you all are not going to get there.
Word.
I
Yeah.
think I think Queen's Creation is an excellent idea for an event for the culture, an event for breaking, and I salute y'all for making this pop and being consistent with it. Yeah, you had a bit of a break, but fuck that. It's here now. You know what I'm saying? We don't worry about what happened yesterday, right? We don't worry about what happened yesterday. It's happening now. So we really wanted to help showcase what you guys are doing with Queen's Creation. And I was wondering, is if you're not there, will there be any live stream situation where people can view, or are
Unfortunately,
you saving it for a future release?
uh, we won't have any live stream. Unfortunately, you'll have to check stories and what we share.
Right, right, right,
We
right.
do have an amazingly talented videographer, Kaylee Jeanson,
Okay,
working with Ill Abilities at the Olympics and the Paralympics,
okay,
and she's doing our recap. And she'll
okay,
do daily recaps also. So we're gonna do a recap
okay.
of Friday and a recap of Saturday, and then we're gonna have a big recap of the whole festival. So,
Sick.
if you're not able to come through, you can always check those and definitely check the stories. We will have a live stream of the panel discussion on Saturday. So we've got a lot
Okay,
of amazing,
that's
talented women
sick.
on the Saturday panel discussion at 2:15 Eastern time. So yeah,
Where will it be? Where will it be live streaming?
on our Instagram, Queen's
Okay,
Creation. Yeah.
okay, sweet. Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yo, I wish I was going to be here this weekend, but obviously I won't be. But I really look forward to seeing what happens, catching the footy, seeing the results. I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to it. Do you think that there might be an opportunity in future to take Queen's Creation into different markets?
Meaning markets.
Meaning, this year Queen's Creation is there. Next year, maybe Queen's Creation is in Vancouver.
Hmm.
Maybe the year after that, Queen's Creation is in Calgary. Maybe Queen's Creation is in Winnipeg. Has that been explored? The idea of possibly doing that?
Not yet. I think
Okay.
we're trying to like we've just been trying to stay afloat with this year's edition.
Oh,
To be honest,
for
there's
sure.
only two of us, so we're a small team. But I do think that always has been part of the vision in a way,
Right.
general kind of way of expanding and involving as many people as
Right.
possible, across Canada or across North America or from anywhere, to be honest. Like I really think that Queen's Creation has a lot of potential to be um profound on a worldwide scale if
I
we
think so.
yeah.
And the
Yeah.
community is pretty tight. Collabing is very easy. You know what I
People have
mean?
been very generous too, and I find like I really have appreciated all of the people we have on board who are just like really, some of them are very famous and extremely talented, have long resumes, and are just we're really down to being part of it. And I really appreciate that kind of like humility and generosity. And I think that's also just part of the spirit of the event. We're all just looking forward to being in the same room together. Like these women are beasts. I can't wait to just be around them and see them all dancing and vibing with everybody to the beats, you know. Like I think the energy of Queen's Creation is very magical and special, and for anyone who's never been, that's what I would say is like you just need, you have to come and experience it because it's unique.
The energy of Queen's Creation is hip hop.
Yeah.
There you go. It's like that. Lynx, really want to thank you for spending time with us in the lounge space this evening. It was great to have you on. I really enjoyed this. I'm glad we were able to get you in here. I want you to know this. I really hope this isn't the last time we get you in the lounge space.
I'm honored that you asked me and that are reached out to support the event in this way, and I really
Oh,
appreciate what you're doing. Like this is dope. Thank you so much. I'm really enjoy being a
no.
part of it, and I enjoy talking with you. Like it was just really chill and easy, you know. Like thank you.
No, very much thank you. I want you to know this platform exists for the culture. What we want to do is, I mean, there's a million podcasts out there that are called hip hop, right?
Mhm.
Well, we see what everyone's doing, and we kind of didn't want to do it that way.
Yeah.
We wanted to honestly, make it about hip hop. You know what I mean? That's why, we want you to know that you've got an open door policy. We've got a spot for you in the lounge space. Anytime you want to roll through, you want to let us know it's guanin. We're
Yeah.
here for you
Respect. Thank you. Much
all day.
love to you.
Respect.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the footy and the results and
Yeah.
that live stream on Saturday.
All right. Stay
All
blessed.
right.
So much.
Respect. Peace.